Two films released this weekend, so we got the Trap review already posted on the channel. If you haven't seen it already, go and check that out. But if you're looking for the other review, here it is. Harold and the Purple Crayon. Yeah. Why did I even bother watching this? Well, a friend of mine and I have been joking about seeing it for a couple months now, ever since that trailer dropped.
With the crayon, anything is possible.
And, yeah. So here we are, finally doing it. I know most of you probably don't even care about this movie. It wasn't even on your radar, or you're not even considering watching it. But I figured I'd make this just for the 12 of you that actually care. You know what? This isn't working. Hold on one second. Okay. Alright. Something's missing. Oh. Better.
I love being purple!
And now, was this a pretty stupid idea to go see this in the theater? Yeah, probably. Did I know it was gonna suck? Yeah, kinda did. Did it suck? Oh, yes. Yes, it did. Okay, look, I understand that I'm not the target audience for this. As a 23-year-old guy, I am clearly not what the Harold and the Purple Crayon producers were looking for when they were setting out to make this film. Now, that said, even if I was a kid, I feel like this would be kind of stupid. Of course, you know, looking back on some of the stuff I used to grow up watching, like Shark Boy and Lava Girl and Spy Kids, those haven't aged gracefully, and for whatever reason I thought they were cool when I was a kid. So maybe some kid out there is watching this and thinking this is the greatest movie he's ever seen. I hope so. I hope that this film found some audience, because honestly, it just felt weird to me. I went with a buddy of mine. You could see him in the out of theater reaction I posted recently. And he and I were like the only ones in there who weren't bringing their kids. So we're just these two cynical film buffs just trying to see how bad this movie's gonna get. And yes, it was not good. And I don't want to spend an eternity talking about this movie because, you know, whatever, it's Harold and the Purple Crayon, but I figured I'd just say my piece. So really, what it boils down to is performances are completely weird. They just feel totally phoned in. And you could tell people like Zooey Deschanel just didn't want to be there. I think they realized how bad of a movie they were making. Some of the actors definitely lean into their performances. For example, Tanya Reynolds, who played Porcupine, as ridiculous as that was, she was definitely steering into that skid. The guy from Get Out does his usual shtick, and Zachary Levi is, he's Zachary Levi. There's not a whole lot in the script for them to really get into, like, emotionally or anything. There's some pretty forced moments here and there and whatever. The plot is just completely nonsense. Stuff is set up and then never paid off. There's a whole thing about how Zooey Deschanel used to be able to play music, and she loved playing music, but now she works at a retail store, and then at one point you actually see her play the piano and it's nice, and then that's it. The CG is absolutely atrocious. I mean, sometimes it looks fine when he's drawing with the crayon and the purple lines are trailing after. Like, that looks actually pretty cool. But it's when you get, like, these CG animals or just these weird hybrid creations, like the alligator lion dragon thing or whatever, or the spider fly or whatever it was called. Like, it looks totally dumb. And yeah, I mean, again, it's a kid's movie. It's probably not gonna get, like, you know, Dune levels of amazing in the visual effects department, but I don't know, in 2024 you'd think that there'd be something better than that. It's also just characters that fade into the ether after being established. Like, there's these two cops in particular that pop up a couple of times, and then after a certain point, there's no mention of them ever again. There's no reason for them to be in this movie at all. The villain is a total cartoon and meant to be so. It's just totally ridiculous. The biggest gripe I would say with this film, and I could overlook, you know, most of that stuff and be like, well, this is just a kid's movie. I'm not the intended audience, whatever. It's just, okay, when your whole thing is Harold and the Purple Crayon and he's drawing literally anything and it can turn purple, why does nothing turn purple? Like, he draws a plane at one point and the whole thing is just silver with a couple of purple flames decaled on the side. He draws a mountain lion and the whole thing is just a normal mountain lion, but the collar is purple. And, okay, I sound like an idiot. Oh, why isn't the Purple Crayon movie making actual purple stuff? Yeah, I know, I understand how I sound right now. But it's just like, from a creative perspective, when you're working on a film like that, you'd think they'd go a little further in terms of how it was presented and how it was actually, you know, following its own logic. So this whole premise is basically just tackling this fish out of water thing that we've seen a billion times, where they come from a land of, you know, pure imagination and joy, and then they come into the real world. We've seen this in Enchanted, we've seen it in Barbie, we've seen it in the Smurfs. It's a trope that has been done to death, and I wish this film was just an animated feature based on the environment we saw at the very beginning when Harold was still a little kid. That is the whole point of the book, is he's a little kid and he's got this crayon, he can draw anything because of his childhood-like imagination. And now for whatever reason we decide, no, screw that. The animation in the beginning looks awesome and is really unique and reflective of the book, but instead what we really need to do is make Harold be a 40-year-old man played by Zachary Levi in live action and do that. Yeah, brilliant. No. Certain things just happen without consequence, and there's really no message from this film whatsoever. When I was a kid, the films that I liked the most were the ones that I walked away from understanding something better or introducing a new perspective into my life. I liked movies that had a soul and had something to say. This film is just kind of here, and it doesn't do anything that it sets out to accomplish well at all. They also dragged Alfred Molina into this to narrate the film, and I mean, props to you, bro. You probably spent like 2 hours in the booth recording lines as the narrator, and you got a decent paycheck from it, I hope, but I'm sorry they wasted your time like that. So yeah, this movie's totally ridiculous, and I kind of expected that, but the biggest offender here is the fact that they didn't make it nearly as creative or inspirational as it could have been, and instead it just feels like a studio that just crapped out a movie to maintain an IP. If your kid's interested in it based off the trailer, I'm sure they'll have a good time with it, maybe more so than you will. But quite frankly, if you're thinking about going to the theater versus streaming it later and you're in no rush to do so, I'd say just wait till it hits HBO Max or Paramount or Prime, because it's bound to hit one of those. And to sum it all up, I'm giving this one 3 out of 10. So those are my thoughts on Harold and the Purple Crayon, a completely and utterly ridiculous film. Comment down below if you've seen this movie. I would be genuinely shocked if you did. And if you liked it or hated it, regardless, I'd like to see how our opinions differ on the matter. Be sure to like if you liked it, subscribe if you want more reviews like this, and stay tuned for more videos because I've got plenty of other reviews on the horizon as more films are coming out this year. But until then, God be with you and take care.